I'm sorry, you guys. Hey, I'm sorry. I just told the class that I'm moving the midterm up. The midterm is going to be now next Wednesday. Next Monday, there's going to be a review. And the review, when I come in, I won't have any material with me at all. So all I'm going to do is field questions. So for you guys online and for people in class, we'll go through whatever you want to go through, we'll go through. And then on Wednesday, we'll have the midterm, and it's going to be either 40 or 50 multiple choice, true, false questions. You'll have an hour to take the test. And that'll be plenty of time. All right. Did you guys have, thank you, buddy. Any questions? Yes, sir. Grades are low. Usually the average is 72, 73. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It matters what everybody else does. Usually people do better on the final because the way I test, I'm pretty consistent in terms of types of questions I ask. Usually there might be one or two people get over 90 and a bunch of 80s and 70s, 60s, and usually a couple people do under 60, and that's not good. Question? The test is online. So you have an hour online. Like I said, it's a time test. You'll have an hour to take it, and that's plenty of time, believe me. So usually most people, it's funny, some people finish in like 20 minutes, which that's not good. But most people take about 35 minutes, and nobody ever has a problem with an hour. No, the test is going to be at 8 o'clock that night. So that's from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock to take it. Okay, before I go forward, you guys online, you got any questions about the midterm or what I just said regarding the change in schedule? Everybody good? Well, you're taking it at a computer, so. So the test is next Wednesday. Anybody else online? Any other questions? Okay. All right, so we're going to finish talking about advertising and PR today, public relations. I left off on this slide last Wednesday. We talked about, somebody over here, I remember, gave me the definition of a medium perfectly. So there's different types of mediums and why a company or an advertiser would choose one medium to use instead of another. So there's advantages and disadvantages, and a lot of this stuff is intuitive. You know, television versus like internet, right? Internet's in the next sheet, but television, wide reach, you need a bunch of people, blah, blah, blah. Costs a lot of money and you waste a lot of money, okay? So that's the problem with television. It costs a lot of money, you waste a lot of money. People watch TV. Traditionally, before the internet, that was by far, probably 80% of medium dollars was spent on television before the internet. I don't know what it is now, but it's a lot less than 80%. Radio has really taken a hit, as you can imagine, as listenership has gone down. That's not the case with podcasts. We talked about podcasts, I think last class. So podcasts are gone through the roof. And a lot of retailers, like a lot of companies, as I indicated, are using podcasts to market to the consumers, which to me makes a ton of sense. Magazines also down. Magazines are tough because, I don't know if you're aware of this, but magazines, if you even look at magazines, they have regional issues. So like a magazine, like a Sports Illustrated in Atlanta is different than a Sports Illustrated in New York. So companies will advertise in regional Sports Illustrateds. So it might be Ingles grocery stores. Ingles grocery stores is only in the Southeast. Why does somebody in New York City give a shit about Ingles? So Sports Illustrated and most magazine companies have regional magazines, so people can, obviously not waste, LA and New York don't need to know about Ingles. But magazines down the tubes, they're probably hurting the worst, right? Magazines and newspapers. So newspapers, obviously, what have they done to stay in business? Online, right? Yeah. So now if you try, like, I subscribe to the Chicago Tribune sports section. So if I want to read about Chicago sports, I got to pay for it. And I'm not knowledgeable enough about the industry to know whether that's been good or bad, but they are staying in business. But they weren't going to stay in business. So the successful papers are the ones that 10 years, 12 years ago said, holy cow, we got to go online. Those are the people who've done really well. Some of the people are more traditional, especially like community newspapers. What's happening, like community newspapers where people advertise a lot, they've, there used to be a newspaper for Marietta. Now, instead of a newspaper for Marietta, it's Marietta, Alpharetta, Kennesaw, Roswell, and they've just broadened out. But those radio, television, magazine, newspapers have all taken a big hit in terms of advertising dollars, right? Well, of course, where have they all gone? They've gone to the internet, and we'll talk a little about the internet next week. And you guys know more about the internet than I do, but it allows for specific targeting. And again, the idea is allows for specific targeting. So advertisers on the internet are all about they're about advertising to as much as possible an individual person. You can't do that in television, you can't do that in radio, you can't do that in traditional media. But the reason the internet is so powerful is because they're trying to send a message to an individual tailored for that individual. Outdoor and billboard is interesting. Outdoor and billboard, it's relatively inexpensive. Obviously TV is the most expensive, right? That makes the most sense. TV is the most expensive. But outdoor billboard, relatively expensive, offers opportunities for repeat exposure. Who's big on billboards here in Atlanta? Who? No, lawyers? Is that what you said? No, lawyers. I was going to say Chick-fil-A and lawyers. So you see lawyers on billboards. You see Chick-fil-A. It must be effective because they keep on using it. They keep on using it. Now, one of the things that billboards, if you guys have seen, like especially not on the expressway, but off secondary streets where the message changes, like every 10 seconds, they change the billboard, right? So that means that you might have 6 or 8 manufacturers paying for that billboard. So the good news there is that it's 1/6 or 1/8 the cost for a manufacturer. Because if you just keep a message up there all the time, it just gets stale and people don't pay attention. And the problem with billboard is how complex of a message can you send on a billboard? Not at all, right? Why? Because people are flying by it. So I got to laugh. You see this all the time. Next time on the expressway, if you just for chuckles, check out billboards and how many you could actually understand what the hell they're talking about. Because a lot of these billboard companies just put too many words on there. Pretty much needs to be like a logo or a catchphrase, and that's it. And direct marketing. All right, so as I define direct marketing, all right, because direct marketing says different terms. But as I define direct marketing, it's the stuff you get out of your mailbox, okay, which is still, and I don't understand why. It's got to work. Again, these people are smarter than me and are doing this. But to me, it's just a total waste. I don't even open the stuff that I get. Do not, literally, I go from this is honest to God, I go from my mailbox to the garbage can, my outdoor garbage can. I stand over the garbage can and I just don't never open it. Boop, 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 just throw them right in the mail and wait till I get something personal. Then I put that on the other garbage can. Then I go back to recycle and put that shit. So I don't get it because it's extremely expensive. It is highly targeted. It's like almost like a written internet. It's almost like it's not as good as the internet, but they can get pretty specific in terms of who they target. It's just Jesus. The cost is off the roof, and a lot of people just don't pay attention to it anymore. And I'm one of them. So all of that stuff, and we talked about mediums, right? We talked last class about advertisers and what they're going to do. We remember we went up on the board and talked about the different things that Equifax, I think it was the example we used. I mean, they've got all these choices, and somebody's got to figure out if they got an advertising budget where they're going to spend it on. Okay? There's something called creative. You guys ever heard of creative? We talked a little bit about that last week. So the message is what you actually say. Creative is how you say it. So creative could be humorous or fact-based or shock value. That's the creative. So when somebody creates an advertisement, especially on the internet and TV, it doesn't make any difference where it is. Is the ad going to be humorous, fact-based, shock value? There's like a million different things you can do, but that's what creative is called. So creativity plays a major role in execution. Creativity should not overshadow the message. The example I was always given at school is really dated, and you guys probably don't understand it, but there was a guy named Joe Namath who was famous in the quarterback in the NFL, played at Alabama, and he was very popular. He won, I think, Super Bowl 5 or 6 or whatever the hell it was, a big upset, blah, blah, blah. So this pantyhose company signed up Joe Namath, and they ran commercials all over the TV with Joe Namath on a couch, and he's got nothing on except these pantyhose. It was a pretty risque commercial. Everybody knew about the commercial, but guess what? Nobody could tell you who the pantyhose coat was for. They had no idea who the company was. So that's called creativity, right? Creativity drowning the message or over the message or whatever. You can't have something that's so creative that the people listening, watching it don't understand what it is. And today I think that happens a lot because people are trying to beat, every commercial seems like they're trying to beat somebody else. And that's a problem. Execution, what you do must match the medium objectives, and the type of medium determines the execution style. So all that is what you have to think about when you're running ads. Again, on the internet, radio, TV, it doesn't make any difference. This pretty simple chart. We talked about, let's go through it again. We talked, what was the example when we used internet marketing, didn't we? How we gauge the effectiveness of internet marketing? Did we have that? We talked about that, right? You said what? Click rate, right? What did you say? You said what? Yeah, you said something. So internet, how can we measure internet's effective? The internet ad, how can we measure its effectiveness? I thought you said something. Somebody over here said time they spend on the page, right? Maybe how many times they go back to the same, they get off the end and they go back, whatever it is. So all this chart is saying is advertisers have to figure this out. They got to figure out, well, what exactly are we measuring? And I'm just making this up. Say, I don't know, say the time spent on the page, they do this pre-test, right? So what they do is they do pre-testing, tracking, and post-test. Protesting. That's funny. It's post-testing. That's great. There's another typo in this book, too. That's the first time I saw that. Pre-testing, tracking, it's actually post-testing. So pre-testing, what they're going to do is if they're going to gauge time spent on page, for a month before they run the advertising campaign, they'll check how long does people spend on the page. 2.4 seconds, right? And if that's a metric that they're doing the advertising and they want to make sure that they do a good job, they set their goal at 3.4 seconds. And they run the ad. So in pre-testing, it's 2.4. Then they start tracking. And post-testing, they come out with 3.4 to figure out whether they made it or not. If they came out with 3.0, they didn't make it. If they come out with 4.0, they did good. Pretty simple. All right? Pretty simple. Any questions on it? That's simple. Questions? All right. This is confusing. Does anybody know what a PSA is? Can you guys give me an example of what a PSA is? Do you guys remember the coloring chart before I get to PSA? How are colors measured? Remember we talked about that? Remember the acronym? P what? PMS. We talked about PMS, right? And we talked about the different shades of red, different shades of blue, different shades of green or brown are measured PMS. It's a 134 PMS red or one green. This right here, this green, she's got, where's two completely different greens. So this green is PMS 143. This green is PMS 144. My shirt's 145, all greens. That's PMS, okay? We talked about that. This is PSA, something totally different. PSA has to do with advertising. And the FTC, right, the Federal Trade Commission, or communication in this case, FCC, they have to devote a specific amount of free airtime to PSA. So what does that mean? That means nonprofits, they have to give a percentage of their airtime to nonprofits or to causes. So on the way here today, I was listening to the radio, and they broke in with this ad about how they're trying to raise a bunch of money. The radio station is trying to raise a bunch of money for some veterans charity. And it went on for like 30 seconds. It was pretty cool. So that was a PSA. So that would qualify as that radio station giving 30 seconds to a nonprofit. I'm not too sure when that law went into effect or why they did it, but every radio station has to air a PSA, which is basically a PSA is a public service announcement. That's what PSA stands for. Yes, sir.
Do they get to the nonprofits and
they don't pay for it?
not at all?
Mm-mm. So how valuable do you think that is? Pretty valuable, right? Yeah, pretty valuable. Yes, sir. You mean like promote it? You mean like participate? No. No, in this case, they were, but most of the times they're not. They'll just do something for some nonprofit. So, you guys are doing a nonprofit marketing project, right? And say you pick some nonprofit in Atlanta that's a mid-size, it would be gold if somehow some radio station talked about it, because it doesn't cost anything. So that's what a PSA is. Only public relations. All right, we touched a little bit about this right before. We touched on, what did I say about jobs here? You guys remember what I said about jobs? What's that? Pay really well, very good. What else did I say? You remember? Hard to get, awesome. That's exactly right. What skills do you need? Very good, communication skills, right? Verbal and written. What else you need? Very little private life. Because when they say jump, when the vice president of somebody, operations, calls and says, holy shit, we just had a fire at one of the plants, you get on a plane and you go wherever the hell a fire is and try to figure out how you're going to communicate that to the internet, to the shareholders, to everybody who's concerned about that company. So public relations it is a good job, and it pays a lot, but you better, you can't, it's just change after change after change. So if you like a job that's organized, or if you like a job that is structured, this is like the opposite of that. Okay, it's the opposite of that. So they do publications. We talked about, this is brochure, special purpose, single issue publications such as books, blah, blah, blah. So it's to inform people about whatever the company wants people to be informed about. Then they do video and audio, stuff that's on the website, for instance, that highlights an organization. Usually that's done by public relations. It's a way to make sure that, they use the term here, cause related. Cause related is basically, we talked about in this class, it's about social marketing. So they want to make sure, public relations, one of their jobs is to make sure the company communicates anything they're doing good from a social standpoint. So if they're doing something good for people, or doing good for people in Mexico, or homeless people here, or whatever the hell it is, public relations are the ones that make sure that message is communicated. And a big one is annual reports. Now, you guys, we talked about this, right? So a lot of you have probably never seen an annual report. What did I ask you to do last time we brought this up? What did I ask you to do? Remember what I asked you to do about annual report? Do you remember what I said? Okay. So listen, you guys, before this semester's over, make sure you look at an annual report, any annual report. Delta, Home Depot, whoever the hell you want. So all public companies have annual reports. You need to check them out. And God forbid, if you go into an interview for a public company, you'd better know that annual report, not inside and out, but pretty close. The annual report contains, it's a note from usually the CEO, and it'll talk about where the company is going and blah, 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 give you all that propaganda. Then they'll talk about initiatives that the company's doing. They'll talk about initiatives they're going to do in the future, and they get into the financials. The financials can get pretty deep. Usually they're too deep for me. So the financials, you could just look at like over an overview, but if you go on an interview, I don't think anybody's going to bust your chops that says, what was the net profit in 2020? However, if you go on an interview and you look at an annual report and you see the company is growing 6% compounded for the last 10 years, that's something you should tell an interviewer. You know, that's the type of stuff an interviewer wants to hear, because that means that you showed interest in the company and the job, right? So that annual report, who's the main audience for an annual report? Who do you think the main audience is? Investors. That's exactly right. So an annual report is mostly brought out to talk to the investment community. So people who are really smart can keep up with the company and decide if they want to invest more or sell or whatever. That's exactly right, investors. You guys got it? So please do yourself a favor, because I never looked at an annual report in college. I know what the hell one was. So you need to look at it, especially if you interview with a company that has an annual report. So anyway, that's what the public relations department does. And if you look at an annual report, it is pretty. It could be 50, 60 pages long. There's a lot of artwork. You could see it's a lot of work. And you can see from the quality of the communication how good you've got to be like you said before, how good you got to be in communications in order to be able to develop an annual report. So PR, that's something that they do. So publications, video, audio, annual reports. Media relations. When a new product comes out, for instance, and they want to tell the world, they will do you guys ever seen a press release? I think I used to show a press release in this class. I think I may have blown that. Probably should show you one. So a press release is they come out with a synthetic gas, right? So who is working on synthetic gas? The car guys. You're a car guy, right? Are you a car guy? Who's a car guy in here? You are, Jake? Somebody. It's either Jaguar or somebody like that is working on a synthetic gas, and the synthetic gas puts out as much as emissions as electric cars. So it's zero carbon footprint. So obviously what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that electric vehicles don't overtake everything, like what looks like it's going to happen. They're trying to create another fuel to keep their company going. And I guess, I think it's Jaguar and somebody else, Lamborghini or somebody else is working on it. So what happens is they're going to say, okay, we're working on synthetic fuel. So how do they communicate to that? They'll put out a press kit. What a press kit is, a press release. It'll talk about synthetic fuel, and they have a database of hundreds and hundreds of radio stations, TV stations, internet sites, podcasts, just zillions of them, and they send out a blast, an email blast to all those people. So somebody who, synthetic gas, for instance, the Washington Times, Washington Post, they don't care. LA Times, they don't care. Chicago Tribune, they don't care. Atlanta Journal-Constitution, they don't care. Miami Herald has a huge automobile following. I'm just making this up. So a lot of people who look at the Miami Herald are big into cars. They'll take that press release that was put out and they'll write a whole article on synthetic gas. So you could see an article on synthetic gas in Miami, but not in Atlanta. But their job with these press kits and media relations is obviously to try to get as many TV stations and as many radio stations and internet, whatever it is, to try to talk about that product. Because again, how much does that cost? What's that cost the company to do that? Just manufacturing the kits. So if ABC News talks about synthetic gas for 5 minutes on ABC News Tonight, the manufacturer of synthetic news is not paying anything for that. Synthetic gas is not paying anything for that. They're running it free. So again, it's sort of like a PSA thing. If you can get somebody to do that for free, it's just gold. So although it costs money to create this press kit and to put it out, that's chump change compared to the image and the awareness and the press you get from different mediums. You guys got it? Okay, what's this last thing? Okay, websites, email campaigns. Public relation is really big on email campaigns. I told you guys that almost all companies now have departments that track negative emails and negative feedback. We talked about that in this class, right? So that would be part of the public relations group. You know, websites though, websites, I don't know about, websites could be controlled by public relations, but a lot of times it's just controlled by the marketing people. But public relations, if the marketing people come up with a website or an ad agency comes up with a website, you can bet public relations is going to be approving it. Public relations are the ones that make sure you use the right words, that you're politically correct, blah, blah, blah. All right, so that's public relations. Any questions? Big bucks, hard to get into, and it's almost like a lifestyle. It's not, for most people, it's not for most people. Yes, ma'am. Well, first of all, it's hard to get into because you've got to be really skilled, like in communications, and you've got to be able to fit that dynamic within the company. And to be honest with you, it's mostly Ivy League people. It's people from really good schools. A lot of it has to do with the fact that it's a small group of people. Public relations is not like sales, where there's tens of millions of people in sales. Public relations, might have 500,000 people, I don't know, whatever it is. It's a relatively small group. So usually it's people who are polished, they went to prep school, all that BS. They came along that line. So it's very hard to get into, and it's not, like I said, it's not the greatest. I don't think it's the greatest. I mean, you're subservient. A lot of people are telling you what to do. You're kissing ass for a lot of people, especially internally. It's sexy, but I don't think it's a great job. But it's really hard to get into because there's not that many jobs, and you've got to be a really good communicator. And a lot of times you got to know somebody too to get in. Why, are you interested in something like that? Is it? You're interested? Okay, so what you tell a class about it. How long have you been taking public relations? Okay, tell the class what I missed.
I'm just wondering.
But so what you've learned, what would you like this class to know of public relations that I didn't say?
Basically, it's like kind of like the space for a company, and you're like communicating with all the stakeholders and making sure that relationship is mutually beneficial between a company and all the public stakeholders, investors, everything. There's a lot of elements, a lot of different directions.
There is. Yep. So there's an actual degree here in public relations? There's an actual degree here in public relations? Wow. Okay.
This is my marketing minor.
Okay. Well, you must be good communications then. Are you good? Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if you get a job in public relations, you should consider yourself lucky, I believe, just based on what I know about public relations. But if you can go for it, go for it. You don't have a boyfriend or married, are you? Could be tough. Could be tough. It's a 2:00 in the morning call. Oh yeah, when they call you, man, you go. But it's sexy. I mean, public relations people, one of the huge benefits is you're hanging out usually with upper management people. So you get a good exposure. So say you're going to public relations and you do it for 2 or 3 years and you don't like it, or there's something about it that you probably know the president of the company, the vice presidents, everybody, and if they like you, you just go work for the company in some other department. So that's a huge plus. Public relations, huge plus is you get exposure to top management, which almost every other job, that's not the case until you get up there, right? If you're in sales and you're a low-level sales guy, the president doesn't know who the hell you are. So that is I got to think about that because I got to remember saying that. That's a huge plus about public relations. It's called exposure to management. So good luck with that. Yeah. I didn't miss anything. Okay. Sales promotions. This is wild, right? We're bombarded with this stuff every day, right? We are bombarded with this stuff every day. So sales promotions can be targeted either the end user, consumer, or channel member. Again, I said there's several terms in this class that gets confusing. Channel. The one thing channel does not stand for is channel 2. When I use the term channel, it's one of two things. One is like there's the grocery channel, there's hardware channel, there's sporting goods, there's all these retail channels, right? And we've talked about that. But after the midterm, we're going to talk about distribution quite a bit. So how does a product get somewhere? It just doesn't magically appear. How is it made? How does it get there? How does it get there the cheapest way possible, right? And the most efficient way. So when this thing talks about channels, it's talking less about this and more about what is called channels of distribution. So channels of distribution would be I'll make it easy. A wholesaler and a retailer. So we're going to get in pretty good depth on this, but if a product like this man's backpack right here. So this guy's got a backpack right here. So you got the manufacturer. Where'd you buy the backpack, buddy? The team supplied it? Okay. So how did the team get it? Who's the manufacturer? Nike bag. Very good. What do you play? You play ball? You play basketball here? Your wife plays?
No, my last school I did.
Your last school you did. Basketball? Where's that? Okay. Heard of that. So say it's KSU, you got your Nike bag. So did Nike sell, I'm just making this up, say KSU. Did Nike sell KSU the bag directly? KSU calls up Nike and gets the bag? No. There's something in between. I'm making, with this, we're going to go in deep depth in this, but just to explain this slide. Nike will probably go through a wholesaler who will sell them to school. So a wholesaler is an intermediary, you guys, usually between a retailer and a manufacturer. And he's the one, especially if you're a small company. So let's say that this wasn't Nike. Let's say this was Sam's, not Sam's, Tony's bags. And KSU wasn't getting Nike bags, they were getting Tony's bags. This wholesaler would be a wholesaler of bags. So he'd have Tony's bag, Tony being the manufacturer, Tony's bags, upper crust bags, whatever. He'd have all these manufacturers, and all these manufacturers are small. So they don't have the ability, like KSU would never know about Tony's bags unless the wholesaler told KSU. You understand? And the wholesaler has all these bags in some warehouse somewhere. So KSU will say, well, geez, I like Tony's bags for basketball, but for baseball, I like upper crust bags. So that wholesaler will sell them both bags. If that wholesaler wasn't in business, Tony's would never get to KSU. You guys got it? So we're talking about channels. It's either channels in grocery or channels of distribution, and we're going to spend days on that. But right now, we'll keep it to this. Yes, buddy. Yep. Nope. What's Tony's bags, buddy? Very good. What's the wholesaler's name? You're right. ABC Wholesaler. I don't know what the name is. Whatever it is. ABC Wholesaler. You know what's funny? And I've gotten into this LED business, and we're actually focusing on wholesalers. And this is just sometimes I just miss stuff. I'm 65 years old, and I never realized until like 4 years ago how many gigantic buildings have names on them that you've never heard of them. You have no idea what business they're in. You've never heard of the name. Tens of thousands of like 500,000 square foot buildings. A lot of them, wholesalers. Because remember, the wholesaler is not selling a product. The wholesaler is selling multiple products. So when we talk about building, let's do this. We talk about building a brand. Stay with me, right? We talk about building a brand. You got ABC Wholesaler and you got Tony's Bags. Who wants to build the brand? Tony. Because the end user is buying a Tony's bag. The wholesaler doesn't give a shit. He's not building up his business. He's not building up his brand. He doesn't even have a brand. All he cares about is getting all these dudes, right? He wants to get all those products. You got that? It's a little complicated.
For like a product, like let's say it's Johnson.
Okay?
So Walmart would be like.
Yeah, you would. They're the manufacturer, but I don't know Johnson & Johnson if they go through a wholesaler, and it gets very complicated. I'll give you an example. Johnson & Johnson in the cities might sell directly to Walgreens, for instance. They don't. They don't. Or they could sell through a wholesaler, and the wholesaler then delivers Johnson & Johnson products to Walgreens. You got it? And the brand is Johnson & Johnson. The brand isn't whoever the wholesaler is. You got it, buddy?
Are usually people who sell to wholesalers smaller businesses, whereas bigger businesses would just make their products in-house?
Very good. So are you asking about how to sell them or how to manufacture them?
Manufacturing.
Okay. Okay. Usually wholesalers aren't manufacturing anything. So they're just taking title, which we'll talk about this. I'm getting deeper. They're taking title, which means once they take the product in, they own the product. And now they'll buy, in this case, Tony's bags will sell the wholesaler a bag for $10. Then they go to KSU and say the bag's $20, they make $10, just as an example. So they've got nothing to do with manufacturing. Now, like my water company is small, really small. And if Tony's bags is really small, Tony's bags, rather than manufacturing their own bags, they can go to something called a contract manufacturer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the contract manufacturer is making all these different products. Like the contract manufacturer I use for water purification, he makes mortuary trailers and all kinds of crazy shit. I'm just an add-on for him. If I had to make my own products, I don't think I could do it. I'm too small. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
My dad he does it in service. So are you saying the wholesaler, like the middleman, who like organizes the sale, like they take it off the manufacturer's hands, and then they deal with it themselves?
One of two things, Jake. Either they sell it, either the wholesaler sells it, or in this case, Tony's would sell it if they're big enough, and the wholesaler's responsibility is delivering it.
So they have like independent distributors, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Two more questions. One, why would KSU buy from Tony Bag versus Nike? And second part is why is there not like an online wholesaler? Like how do people get wholesale?
No, well, that's the thing, right? You guys see a lot of ads on the internet that say like wholesale prices. Have you ever seen that on the internet? Jewelry and all kinds of products. It's wholesale prices. What they're trying to communicate is that they're taking out the retailer. So let's use Tony's bags again. Tony sells their bags for $10. They sell it to a wholesaler. Let's just make it easy. They sell it to a wholesaler for $15. KSU buys it for $20. You got it? Right? If you're on the internet and somebody is communicating wholesale pricing and you're Joe Schmo and you're going to buy a Tony's bag and you buy it off the internet wholesale pricing, how much are you paying for it? How much? No. What's the number? Wholesale pricing. Okay, that's all right. They make the bag for 10. Tony's makes the bag for 10. Sells it to the wholesaler for 15. Wholesaler now owns the bag. So he then sells it to KSU for 20. How much is how much is the wholesaler making this in that scenario? How much is how much does the manufacturer make? 5, right? They both okay. So on the internet now you're going to say wholesale pricing, which usually is bullshit, right? Usually. It's a way to get somebody to think that they're paying less. But if it's true, and you were buying a Tony's bag on the internet, and it says wholesale pricing, what would you pay for it? Exactly.
It seems like in the era of like Amazon and stuff, Amazon can have this little sub-unit page for local wholesalers and for small companies. So let's say like a local high school wanted to get their bags a little cheaper than Nike, they could go to like some department of Amazon's website and it brought up like local small businesses that made bags and cut wholesalers up.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of, it's even worse than that. It's a lot of like, forget the wholesale price. A lot of people are they advertise the manufacturer price. They're cutting everybody out.
So how are wholesalers still kind of thriving?
Oh, they're massive business. He talked about food. There's a ton of business in food service. They're massive. Wholesale, I don't know. It's massive.
It just seems like the internet would have brought like people like KSU or restaurants closer to the manufacturer.
Okay. What did the internet, you think, do in this scenario here? This 10, 15. What did when we go to the internet came out, right? What did it force the wholesaler probably to do? Exactly. They had to go cheaper to be competitive. Now listen, Tony's Bags could say, I'm not selling the KSU unless they buy 500 bags. It's too much of a hassle. I'm not doing the KSU logo. I'm not making enough money, blah, blah, blah. They can go to wholesaler, and the wholesaler could buy 500 KSU bags and save them for 3 years, right? Or they could sell them 150 a year or whatever the case is. So wholesalers have the bags right away. So say somebody needs the bags right away, you can't go to Tony's and say, I want 500 KSU bags. You're not getting them tomorrow. But guess what? If this guy's got KSU bags in his warehouse, you're getting them tomorrow. So wholesaler provides a lot of value. And that's the reason they're able to get get into the product. Every time somebody touches something, every time, and we're going to talk in depth about this, the price goes up and up and up. And it's nothing for a $10 product that costs $1. Nothing. Because everybody, and we're going to talk about, because this is just one intermediary. Wholesaler is just one. There's 5 or 6 we're going to talk about that are in the middle here. Every time somebody picks up Tony's bag and sells it to somebody else, they're getting their cut. And that's how a $1 product turns into 10. Every day. Millions and millions of products are like that. People think it's funny. Again, I didn't understand this stuff. People think the cost of the product is in the cost of the product. It's not in the cost of the product. The cost is in the distribution of the product. Especially now with COVID. How's supply chain and all that stuff? How do you think now in COVID, has all this become more complicated or less complicated? More. There's like hundreds of ships off of LA that they can't dock. And they're full of chairs and windows and all kinds of shit. And they've been out there for weeks. So these wholesalers say, and that's a good example, a wholesaler of chairs who's in Atlanta, he's got 500 of these chairs, right? But if they try to go to the manufacturer in China to buy 500, which we're going to talk about all this stuff, if they go to China to buy 500, it could come in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. What does KSU do when the class opens on August 15th and there's no chairs? That's a problem. So KSU will pay extra for those chairs to make sure that they're here. And they'll probably go through a wholesaler. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, like I understand what you're saying.
But the internet's made it way more complicated, way more difficult, it's made people have to be better business people. You're right. You're right.
Wholesalers and the middlemen would have shrunk in size.
Okay, not to drag this out too much, but you're getting at that. Let's go to Best Buy. What's a Vizio TV cost? 400. What do you think it costs on the internet? Now, so Vizio's cutting off Best Buy, basically. You're going to buy directly from Vizio. How much do you think it costs? What do you guys think? Well, it's not going to be more than 400.
Maybe only a little less than 400.
Why only a little less?
Because they see Best Buy's profit. They want Best Buy's profit, but they're going to put it cheaper just so they can get as much profit as they can while undercutting Best Buy.
Okay, so this is where we're going to talk about pricing. I told you I love pricing. This is one of the discussions. If they drop the price to $300, what's Best Buy going to do? kick them out of the store. You can't insult retail. So even on the internet, a lot of those prices are close to retail, and all that means the manufacturer's making more money. But they have to have price integrity. I'll give you another example. I just bought my golf buddy. So I bought a set of irons, and I bought a PGA Superstore, and I'm trying to negotiate with the guy. And I said, dude, can you give me a break on these? He said, absolutely not. And I was kind of pissed off. I said, okay. So I went back home and went on the internet. Those irons everywhere are the same cost. Dick's, Athletic Academy, PGA at the same price. So what are they doing there? It's called price protection. So no problem, man. You want to discount those irons? No problem. You can't take them. I'm not selling them to you. Because of what they're doing, they're keeping their margin up. Right? They're keeping that price up so they can make more money. They don't want you. It's counterintuitive. You would think that golf clubs would want that retailer to lower their price because then they'd sell more. But that's not the case. If they can keep that price high with everybody, anybody who buys those clubs, I paid whatever the price was. I paid. They made more money. The guy wouldn't discount. Same thing with shoes. I bought Kona's. Is that what they're called? You're a shoe guy, aren't you? The Kona or something. There's some. I didn't even know. I went to some sporting goods store and this lady said, buy them. I said, okay, fine. $150. I almost shit. I never paid over like $70 for shoes. She goes, yeah, you'll love them. I said, okay, whatever. She was cute. So I bought the shoes. She was a great sales page. So I bought the shoes. I go back on the internet. Guess what? Everywhere in the country, $150. Everywhere in the country, Pennies, Dick's, you name it, any place, $150 for shoes. So they're keeping that price up. Rolex does it. A lot of brands do that where they don't discount the price. They want to keep that price up. So even on the internet, that's not going to help you. Okay. When we get to distribution, you can open up. Yeah, Jay.
If you look up any product, like you say like $150, there's like, even let's say 150, and then at the end, let's say like $94. A lot of products. Is that
I don't know.
wholesale or something?
I don't know. I've never seen that. So like you got a product, let's say my golf clubs.
Yeah.
They're $500, $500, $500, $500, $500, and then somebody at the end is going to say 400.
It's like 366.
No, I don't know. It could be used. Could be used. It could be seconds. You guys know what seconds are, right? You know what seconds are, right? Yeah. So it could be seconds. It could be something like that. Seconds are products that come out that have slight imperfections. And for the most part, you guys, take it from me, if you can buy a second, buy a second. So like especially on furniture, like a little nick. I'll give you an example. We just bought a $4,000 sofa. This was just last week at Macy's for $1,700. And the reason was because at the back of one of the sections, there was this tiny black mark. I don't know how it got there. You couldn't see it, but they can't sell it as new because it's not. Somebody put a mark on it. So that's a second. And especially in furniture, that's where you need to go. Especially when furniture has such high markups. So the higher the markup on the product, the more it is better to get a second. Did that help? So it's imperfection. Yes, sir.
Is there someone in charge of it, or is there like a consensus?
Oh, yeah. What happens is the manufacturer, like at the golf clubs, the manufacturer club goes to PGA Superstores. Here's my clubs. They're great, blah, blah, blah. You're selling them for X. If you don't want to sell them for X, no problem. I'm not selling to you. Then they go to the next guy. It's the same discussion. Now you got to have a pretty good product to do that, right?
What if the retailer says, I don't sell for more than what they do not?
They can, but then they really don't like that either, because then you're in the consumer's mind. You're setting a higher price.
So that everyone else does the same.
Yeah, exactly. They would rather have everybody sell at the same price. What else? You guys are quiet over here. You all right, buddy? Staying awake? You all right? Okay. Any questions? More? You can wait till next time. Anything? You got anything, buddy? You all right? Everybody good? Okay. So how did I get into all that? Very good, Steve. Nice tangent. Channel, that's why. Okay, so when this says we talk about sales promotions, it's sales promotions to consumers or channel members. Let's go up here again. Let's go back up here to Tony's. I love Tony's bags. I got to remember this. So Tony's is here. So let's use an easy one. So let's do a consumer. So what kind of promotion is targeted at the consumers? What kind of promotions do you guys see? 30% off. What else? Buy one, get one. Right? Buy a toothpaste, get a toothbrush. All that. Those are promotions. That's the easy ones. But when they talk about channel members, let's go to Tony's. Tony's, let's say that there's 100 bag manufacturers. Just making it up. 100 manufacturers of bags. And you got this wholesaler who maybe has got great relationships with Dick's and Academy and KSU and, I don't know, Georgia Tech, just make it up, right? So this wholesaler, for some reason, has got great. Tony's ain't selling Georgia Tech. Tony's sells the wholesaler who then sells Georgia Tech. Okay, so that's the scenario. How does this Tony's, how does he get this wholesaler to carry his product? So you got price, right? There's a price, but every so often he can do a promotion, and instead of 30% off, let's say buy 10, get one free. So if the guy buys, Tony's goes to the wholesaler, says, hey, special deal for March. If you buy 10, I'll give you one free. Or at the end of the year, I'll tell you what, if you sell $1 million worth of my bags, I'll give you a $50,000 rebate. So there's promotions in consumers that you see every day, but actually the more impactful promotions are what I just went through. It's how do wholesalers and retailers get advantages on selling something? You know, how does a manufacturer promote their products throughout the whole chain? Right? Because Tony's could also go to Tony's once they get distribution, you could go to KSU and say, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Tony's is we've got Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman loves Tony's bags. Maybe he's a part owner. Who knows? Tony's says, hey, I'll tell you what, wholesaler, get KSU to sell my bags, and I'll have Freddie Freeman, make an appearance at KSU next Saturday for 2 hours, and I'll pay for it. Sponsored by Tony's Bags. So that way Tony's Bags wins, KSU wins. So there's all this stuff that you see, and you're affected by every day that is quote unquote promotions. And it's as important with trade customers as it is with consumers. You guys cool? Everybody good? Okay. Now another term up there, push and pull. Right? And push and pull. I'm going to tell you what this is because you'll never get it. So push and pull in a distribution deal. Let's talk about Tony's Bags. Let's talk about Tony's Bags, and they want to sell more bags, and they don't want to drop the price. You know, they don't want to go from $10 to $9 on every bag sold. They want to sell more bags. And maybe they want to sell more bags in a downtime of year or whatever the case is. So they're going to run promotions. Push and pull has only got to do with customer. So it's business. So as far as this class goes, push and pull has got nothing to do with the consumer. And as some teachers teach this differently, this is what this class is doing. All right, so forget the consumer. It's got to do business to business. A push strategy is, shit, I take that back. I'll make it easier on you guys. I'll make a push strategy customer-based, and I'll make a pull strategy consumer. This will be easier to understand. Violating my own. Okay, so push has to do with customer, pull has to do with consumer. A push is when Tony's goes to the wholesaler and says, I tell you what, wholesaler, you buy 1,000 of my bags, and I'll give you 50 free. It does nothing for the end price. It does nothing for the consumer, but it's a way for the Tonys to get the wholesaler to buy more bags from him. Okay? So a push strategy is what a manufacturer or a wholesaler could do the same thing to the retailer. The wholesaler or the manufacturer is trying to push the products through the channels of distribution. You guys got it? Got nothing to do with the consumer for this class. You guys good? Pull has got to do with the consumer. So if you buy a toothbrush, get a free toothpaste, and say Colgate's doing this, Colgate is not incenting the warehouse. Colgate's not incenting the retailer. Colgate is incenting the consumer to buy their products. So what they're doing is they're trying to pull the product through. So push means a manufacturer is trying to push products through the distribution chain. Pull means that a manufacturer is trying to get a consumer to pull it through. And those terms are used very much in business. Do you guys understand that? Was that good enough? Yeah, so I changed on the fly. So push is for businesses and pull has to do with consumers. You guys got that? That's a little complicated. You guys hear that? Yes, sir. A pull? Okay, so an example of a pull is you go to Walgreens and they got a big display. And this big display is from Colgate. And on that display, if you buy a toothpaste, you get a free toothbrush. So they're telling the consumer that they're getting a deal and that's why they're going to buy it. You know, believe it or not, that's how a lot of products get introduced. That's how a lot of products get introduced. So they'll see products in a market and consumers will start asking for it and they force the retailer to take it. So say Walgreens wasn't carrying Colgate. They weren't carrying Colgate. So CVS was. So now you got all these consumers in Atlanta. They go to CVS and they see this Colgate display. Well, the next time they go to Walgreens, they ask the manager, hey, where's the Colgate deal? I saw it in CVS. The Walgreens guy then calls up his buyer, and before you know it, they got Colgate. So a lot of products do that. That's like stealth marketing, but that happens a little bit. Yeah. Okay. We'll give you an example. Okay, which one is that? It is. It is. Anytime a consumer is involved with the final purchase, it's pull. That's a good way to say it again. Anytime a consumer's part of the final pull, for this class, anytime a consumer's in the final deal, it's a pull. If they're not, it's basically a push. You good? You good, buddy? Any other questions? So what's it say? Yeah, sales promotion can be used in either push or pull. So those are examples. What they get? Oh, they got CVS up there, right? So these would all be considered promotions. What is up here? What's it say? So these would all be considered promotions, hottest summer trends. Here they've got, okay, I'm going to say another rule. This is a good one here. I can't read it, but they're giving away something free. Here they're giving away, you buy this bottle of vitamins, you get this bottle free. That's a promotion. All right? I don't think I'll ask this at a test, and if I do, it'll be for the final. When somebody lowers the price, I'm not considering that a promotion. If somebody puts something on sale for $2.99, I'm not considering that a promotion. Okay, I don't think I'll ask that in the midterm. I might ask it in the final though. So what I'm talking about here is when they say something's 99 cents, I don't consider that a promotion. I do consider these a promotion. Okay, you guys cool? Let me put my thing back up. All right. Last slide.
So, can I ask one?
Sure.
So they're just advertising the low price that's on the.
I don't consider
Like,
promotion.
if they reduce it from $1.
No. Any price I mean, some people, it's called price promoting, and that's too generic for me. If it's price, it's just a discounted price that's on sale, not a promotion for this class.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so if it was $1.99, they're selling it for 99, that's not a promotion. Anything with price, I'm not interested in. All right, coupons. There's a bunch of promotions that you guys don't, you know what a coupon is, deals, so encourages trial, so they want somebody to try it. Premium builds goodwill. So if you guys see keychains, it's Post-it notes, pens, all that junk with companies' names on it, that's a massive business. Massive. Massive, massive, massive. So that's considered a promotion. Okay, so that's considered. So, you know, if somebody, they give it away to customers, usually it's a customer thing, or t-shirts, same thing. So that's premiums. Contests, you guys know about contests, right? So like Publishing Clearinghouse or a contest like T-shirt.hell. You guys know what that is? So T-shirt.hell, this is brilliant. They're a massive company that sells T-shirts. T-shirthell.com, I think it is. And you know how they get their sayings for their T-shirts? Consumers send in ideas for T-shirts. If they use your idea, they pay you $50 and give you a T-shirt. Think about that. So what do they not have to pay? Exactly. They don't have to pay all the salaries for people to come up with goofy things for T-shirts. That's brilliant. And not only that, you got a customer, right? So when we talk about contests, there's all kinds of ways to do concepts. Sweepstakes, you know what sweepstakes is. You get a chance, you guys know what sweepstakes are. So you get a chance to win something. That's considered a promotion. All right?
You know those, see, it says, apply for this and you can win $1,000 and this will
What is it? So what is it? So we've got, it's none of those, right? What would you consider it? Yeah, I consider sweepstakes. You know, samples. What's Costco do, you guys? What's Costco do? At the end of, not during COVID, although they're starting to loosen up. But prior to, have you guys ever been, has anybody in here been to Costco? What does Costco do? Like remember pre-COVID, if you went into a Costco, what did they do almost at the end of every aisle? Giving shit away. So who do you think pays for that? No. Who pays for it? Manufacturer. So you know what they've got behind, what do they have all the time behind the sample? A big display of the product. So I eat this sausage, and I like the sausage. The goal is for you to get, oh, you like the sausage? Boom. Here you go. And they hope that's how they try to sell you the sausage. Sampling is very effective, but it's expensive. But yeah, no, man, Costco doesn't pay for anything. Manufacturer does. You guys got that? Okay. So that's sampling, loyalty programs. We talked about that. POP, I almost went to a company that did it. So POP is point of purchase displays. And when you see big displays, like Super Bowl displays, right? For the Super Bowl, you go in there and Kraft will have, send in a label from a Kraft product, and we're taking 100 people to the Super Bowl. So that's communicated through what's called point of purchase. So it's displays in stores. Rebates is great. So you know who does a lot of rebates is liquor. Who's my drinkers in here? Who drinks in here? Jake, you know what a rebate is? What is it? Very good. So in this case, we'll talk about the customer. You got Jack Daniels. What do you drink, Jake? Jack? Oh, great. I guess right. Okay, Jack Daniels. You go to buy Jack Daniels. Does liquor have huge governmental regulations? The answer is yes. Okay. Okay, so when I was at Coke, I could do almost anything I wanted. Liquor can do almost nothing. Well, what would Jack Daniels do? How would a rebate work, you think? You guys have any idea? What's Jack Daniels cost? $40. So what sometimes do you see around the neck of a liquor bottle? Have you guys ever seen it? So you buy Jack Daniels for $40. There's a sheet there along the liquor bottle, name, blah, blah, blah. You send in to Jack Daniels, and they send you $10. So effectively, it's on sale. You're actually paying $30, but they can't advertise it as $30. So a rebate is a way to get you a better price and follow the rules. And a lot of companies do this. It's not just in liquor. Now, if it's they can't do this in liquor, but let's say it's a $40 coat. Let's say it's a $40, I don't know, North Face coat. And you go to the store and you see a North Face display, and North Face is offering a rebate. So they'll say 40, the sign will say $40 less $10 rebate, $30. And it'll say with rebate. In your mind, what's the price? $30, right? Great. First of all, what do you have to do to get the $10? Yeah, that's right. So what does a guy like me do? Nothing. Okay. So they think it's $30. It's a $10 rebate. You got to fill out this goofy form. Then you got to send in proof of purchase. Okay. Already probably 50% of the population's out, maybe more. But let's say the people do it and you send it in. Then what do you get? Now you get a card. Right? It used to be you got a check or something for next person. Now it's actually a card, like a credit card. And on their gift card is $10. Then what happens? You lose it. Or you don't spend it. Okay, by the time you're through, usually it depends on who you talk to. But let's just say about 70% of gift cards and rebate cards are never redeemed. All right? So let's go back here. North Face had a $40 jacket. They're promoting it as $30. I said half the people aren't gonna do. They're not gonna put the paperwork in. Already that price goes to $35, right? Because half the people aren't going to do it. So that leaves $5. Then out of the $5, 70% are going to do it, which means 30% aren't going to do it. So that leaves you. I'm really good with math. I'm probably going too fast. It leaves you, Mr. Math, $350, right? So in reality, even though they're advertising for $30, it costs them $33.50 by the time they're through. And that's why gift cards and rebates are used, because so much is not redeemed. But at retail, they can make it sound great. $30, shit, that's a great price for a North Face jacket. But you don't end up a lot of times getting that $30. But they're getting your 40. The other advantage is, when do they get their 40? Right away, right, baby? When do you get this card? Months. So what do they got in the meantime? They got your money, right? So they can do whatever. So a lot of companies do that for cash flow, and a lot of them do it because they need money to invest. So rebates liquor's notorious, but a lot of products do that. And the last thing I would say is product is the last chart, right? Thank God. We're done? We're done. This is really interesting. Product placements. Okay, you guys, when you see a movie and they go into a kitchen and Kraft macaroni and cheese is on the counter, how did it get there? It's just part of the script, or it looks like it should be there. Wrong. How does it get there? Kraft pays. So like Coke had a whole department that did nothing but work with movie studios, videos, anything that people would see to try to get a Coke can on somebody's desk, or a Coke vending machine, or a Coke sign. A whole department, that's all they did. Again, the product placement is something that from a, if you're in a really good movie, here's the idea. If you're in a really good, a very popular movie like Wonder Woman, let's say Wonder Woman's a popular movie, and there's a Coke product on there, or God forbid she drinks one, right? That's like gold, right? So this product placement is kind of a funky thing, but it's really important. It's not really important. It's just a really good way of, making your brand associate. One, it helps with awareness, but it associates with a good movie or a good, something good. Yes, sir.
Sports press conference, post game, they'll have certain brand
Of course. Georgia football, Alabama football. You'll never see Nick Saban have an interview without a Coke in front of him. Never. Yeah, there's a whole reason, have that and $5 million, it's a beautiful thing. Any other questions? Okay, guys, we'll see you Wednesday.